There are a million and one different training shoes today from the likes of all sorts of big companies. Nike, New Balance, Adidas. It's another big company. Reebok. Tons of training shoes. It's like its own category now. And you have them segmented for like CrossFit, weightlifting, barefoot, all this sorts of stuff. So I'm going to talk about 3 of my favorite training shoes, ones that I actually use for a long time. All of these I have multiple pairs of. All of them except for one, well, 2 of the 3 basically, I have worn the crap out of them and bought new ones. I love these shoes. And because they're off the beaten path in many different ways, a lot of people, you've made some of these shoes you may have never even heard of. I want to recommend them to you today. Let's do it. Hey guys, it's Coop from Garage Gym Reviews. I wear training shoes literally all the time. If I'm not at church or going on a date with my hot wife, why are you laughing? I'm pretty much wearing training shoes, like because I'm either training or I'm testing equipment, I'm going on rucks or walking my dog, I'm playing with the kids, I'm doing yard work. I basically just use these shoes for everything. I use them in the house to the chagrin of my wife. But I just constantly, this is what I'm wearing. So I want a shoe that is very versatile. I want a shoe that I can actually use while training. And one of these is a little bit different from the other 2. I use it specifically for rucking and walking, which I've actually started to do a lot of rucking. I'll just take my Go Ruck pack and I'll just go out for a walk basically, but they call it a ruck because you're wearing weighted. Highly suggest that. But let's get into the shoes. The first ones are the ones that I've used probably for the past 3 or 4 years. If you've watched videos, you've seen them. I actually first got the inspiration to use these, I'd say probably from Knees Over Toes guy. He doesn't use them anymore because he actually sells his own shoe, which I'd like to try. I'm pretty sure they're made in America. But these shoes I have used a ton. Anytime I travel, I take them. I'm a big fan. They are the cheapest of the lot, and they're the ones, honestly, that I'd recommend the most. These are the Zero HFSs. They actually have the HSF2s now. These I have 3 different colors. I wear them all the time. This is actually just a pro tip for you. I noticed that the women's models were often cheaper, and actually some of the colors I like better. This is actually a women's model. The sizing is the exact same. The shape and everything is the exact same. It's just a 1.5 size difference. So I wear a 10 typically in Zeros. I bought 11.5 women's. I really like this colorway. I will say, of all the shoes in this bag, the Zeros are the ugliest. These are the best looking Zeros. I actually think the new ones, the 2s, look better, but they just perform extremely well. They have a 5,000 mile warranty on the actual sole. If you send them to them and there's less of a millimeter of rubber from the ball of your foot to basically the floor, they'll give you a 60% off discount off of a new pair. They also have a 2-year warranty on any manufacturer defects. The reality, if you look into warranties for shoes, most of them suck. And most of them are huge corporations that's hard to get a hold of anybody real. Zero is small enough that really, if you want to, you can get the owner on. Very nice guy and loves, I want to be clear on this, loves his brand and his company and what he's doing with barefoot shoes. I pretty much only wear barefoot shoes now, unless I'll show one pair that's not. But I like a 0 millimeter drop. I like something that's super flexible. I mean, these things are ridiculously flexible. In fact, if you're ever traveling, you can put these in your luggage and they fold completely flat and take them out. They're like slippers. They're so comfortable. So for deadlifts and training, all that sorts of stuff, feel really good. They're also very breathable, wide toe box, 0 millimeter drop. They have an insole. I always take it out, but they're just awesome. You can see over time the way they start to wear is basically through, but I've yet to wear through a pair, and I've worn these everywhere and a lot. And they smell bad. They definitely do smell bad. Highly recommend these. Of all the shoes, honestly, these would be the ones I'd recommend the most. They cost $120 retail. They have sales all the time. You're like, $120, I can get a pair of Nikes or something like that for less. Well, that's because they have higher volume. If you don't want to pay $120, wait for a sale off where you buy one, you get a big discount, something like that. Or they have just discount codes. But of all of the ones I've got here, these are the cheapest, and honestly, for most of you, I'd recommend. Okay, my next pair. This is actually a pair that's a recent purchase for me. The reason I bought these is because when I went out to see Rich Froning at his Mayhem Mountain, he had these on, and I noticed basically everybody at Mayhem had them too. Like, basically, it seems like if Rich buys something, is into something, it seems like everybody else gets into it too. He's an influencer in that way. But Rich Froning has his own shoe with Reebok, and these are the shoe he was wearing. I know I asked him about them. I was like, do you like those? He's like, they're awesome. And he has Like his are torn to shred. He has worn the crap out of them. He had multiple pairs. He was like, I highly recommend these. So I bought a pair. Not going to lie, they're my new go-to. I actually don't wear the zeros anymore. These are the ones I wear. These are the Vivo Barefoot Magna Lights. I want to say, first off, so I'm going to give some compliments to these, but I want to be clear. These are, number one, overpriced. These are way too expensive. Like Vivo Barefoot, I think the reason they price them as such is multifaceted. One, they're a smaller company, so they don't have the volume of something like Nike or something like that. Two, they are using premium materials. And three, they have a high. I think that's why they do it. Really, they have a high. I think they're just making a lot of money off them. I would love to see Vivo Barefoot have lower prices, but I will say it's easy to have a 20% off discount. I think we have a code. We'll put it below the like button if we have one, but they're good enough that honestly, I would spend the money on them. Like these, I bought full price. I think they're $230. It's a ridiculous cost. These were actually on sale for $175. That's a lot for a shoe. The only reason I was willing to pay that is because I literally will use these all the time. I actually liked them so much that I went and bought another pair in a different color, the khaki color. They are awesome. What I like about them, again, super flexible. These are actually a hiking boot. That's how they market them. The way that these would be improved, and actually Rich told me this, and I totally agree with it. If they remove these lugs, because they put these lugs on here because they're made specifically for hiking, but they're a really lightweight hiker. If they remove these lugs, they would be literally the perfect training shoe. Very flexible. I love that they come up higher with this flexible knit upper. They just like they fit without you having to tie them all the time. I think they look cool. Honestly, of all the barefoot shoes that are on the market, Vivo Barefoots are without a doubt the coolest. They don't always look like you're just one of those barefoot Vibram 5-finger nerds, which I have no problem being one of those nerds, but I don't always want to look like one of those nerds. You know what I'm saying? So I went to a wedding one time. This dude had a full tuxedo and Vibram 5-finger barefoot shoes. It was like, what are you doing? He was also taking pictures at the wedding with an iPad. You know the type. iPad Pro is like, dude, efficiency at its finest. But big fan of these shoes. For a lot of you, I probably wouldn't recommend them because they're so expensive. But if you're somebody who's wearing training shoes all the time, wants the best, these are the ones that I pick. I am curious to see what the durability is going to be like because Rich Froning's, he had used his a ton and they looked like they were still functioning perfectly. But I've seen things online about Vivo Barefoot having issues with delamination and also not really backing their product super well. So if that's the case, I'll be sure to let you know. All right, the next one. These are ones that I use for rucking, for walking. Anytime I'm going to be like extended, like walking around, these are ones I use. And you'll see the trend here. These are the Ultra Lone Peaks. These are actually, when I go hiking, these are what I'll use. Very cushioned compared to the shoes I usually use, but still a zero drop, still a wide toe box, still a wide shoe in general. I have actually pretty thin feet. Like I don't like them to be super tight. I want them to be loose. So these are the Lone Peak 6s. They actually have the Lone Peak 8s by now. Honestly, I've used the Lone Peak 4s. My wife has them too. Like I love this shoe. Like when I'm hiking, if I wear out a pair, I've got a yellow pair I just actually tore up. I just buy a new pair, whatever the latest one is, or the Pass model because they're cheaper. These retail at $140. Again, an expensive shoe, but these I have a lot of experience with, last a really long time. I would not use these specifically for lifting like heavy. Like if you're doing like lower body, like squats and deadlifts, I don't like cushion on that. I don't think you should have cushion. I just want to be against whatever I'm pushing against. But if you're doing any sort of rucking, I mean, you could use them for upper body day too. I see guys use Crocs for upper body day. Matt Wenning lifts tons of weight. But if you want to do any sort of rucking, walking, running, that sort of thing, I highly recommend these. They're just ultras in general. Lone Peaks are my favorite because they've got a little bit sharper tread on there, so they're great for off-road. Big fan. I've actually worn a pair of these through the Narrows at Zion National Park, which is basically you're just walking and trudging through rocks and all sorts of stuff through water. It was my yellow pair, and I wore them, cleaned them up, and they looked like new after. So, like, these things are durable, work really well. These also are pretty watertight. Like, you're not having full water tightness, but it is up to a certain point. So for instance, me and Nathan, my videographer, we were heading to see, I think it was Gunnar Peterson, and it was raining like crazy as we were going from the airport parking lot to the actual airport. And my feet were just bone dry. Felt incredible. Nathan's the entire trip were soaked. He was wearing Nikes. So they're very breathable, even though, honestly, for like minor wetness, they can hold up. These are my 3 favorite training shoes. So if you're wondering, what does Coop wear when he trains? These are ones I wear most often. I also wear Olympic weightlifting shoes on a lot of lower body days. The ones I use for those are Nike Romaleos. I mean, there's a lot of weightlifting shoes out today. My problem with many of them is they're not made like they used to be. They used to make them with leather and they would last forever. Anybody that remembers the '08 Addy Stars, let me know in the comments. You know what I'm talking about. The newer ones, they make them like a running shoe upper and then they throw the big heel on the bottom. The heel's never going to fall off, but it's the upper that gets torn up. So right now I'm using Romaleos, but honestly, if I could have any, I'd just go back to the old Addy Stars because they're the go. Okay, these are my favorite training shoes. Let me know what your favorite training shoes are. I'd love to hear from you. Are there any I'm missing or should try, especially the barefoot variation? I'd love to hear. This has been Coop from Garage Gym Reviews. I'll see you next time. Peace.